Welcome.
Working.
So glad to see you.
So glad to see you, my friend. How
Look
are you?
wonderful. And how are you? Look at your beautiful face on your book. And of course, now you are here live with us to talk about your amazing new book. How has everything been?
Thank you so much. The book launch has been interesting. It's always fun to be a health and wellness author because you kind of start off with some health challenges and then you learn how to fix them. You get into really good balance and you feel really good, and then you share it with clients. Then you kind of decide to write a book about it, and that kind of makes you test your own protocols, because then all of a sudden, you're working a long time, putting in lots of hours to the book, and then promoting the book is also something that's a little bit intense. So I'm doing my Epsom salt baths. I'm taking some adaptogens, but I'm feeling pretty good.
That's great. And I think, we've heard the terms adrenal fatigue and things like this, but what are the adrenals? Where would we even find those in our body?
So these are these tiny little glands that sit on top of our kidneys, and they produce a whole bunch of hormones for us. Most notably to our conversation today are stress hormones, the most common one known as cortisol. And this is something that gets a lot of press, typically for being bad and for us having too much. This is only partially true. We do need cortisol in the right amounts at the right times of day to feel bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning and to have restful sleep throughout the nighttime. And we can have a lot of dysfunctional patterns with this, though, when it gets disconnected from the circadian rhythm. So we can have too much cortisol all day. We can have cortisol that just bounces around, which makes us feel very irritable and anxious. We can have a flipped cortisol curve where we make not enough cortisol in the morning, so we're tired, and too much cortisol in the night, so we can't sleep. We're wired but tired. And then we can have a flatline cortisol curve where people just don't release a lot of cortisol throughout the day. And these are the people with like the fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, hypothyroid kind of presentation, where they're tired. And people are telling them that they need to exercise, and they exercise and they makes them more tired. And people are like, you should socialize to have more energy. And then they socialize, and then they're tired after socializing. And they sort of like, the people are like, sleep more. And they're like, but I sleep all the time and I'm still tired. And part of the reason for that is because they're not producing enough of this cortisol that can keep them healthy and energized. So there's a lot of different patterns that can be presenting whenever we are not aligned with our circadian rhythm.
Well, and I love that you talk about the different variations here, because I think we hear a term, we hear it repeated again and again, we think, oh, cortisol's bad. But in fact, there wouldn't be a reason our body produced it if it was only serving in a negative function. And like you mentioned, you came to learning about so much of this through your own experiences. So you've been called the thyroid pharmacist. Share a little bit of your journey and how that led you to be an expert in these areas.
So many symptoms, including chronic fatigue, anxiety, panic attacks over the years. And I ended up being diagnosed with Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. Part of me was happy to get a diet because I thought I would be able to start on medications and feel better. And the medications helped me a little bit, right? I was tired, like no more needing 12 hours of sleep. I only needed 11 hours of sleep. I didn't need 2 jackets in Southern California. I only needed 1, in the springtime, right? But all my symptoms still remain. I my symptoms, and I realized that it ended up being partially there was a lot of different triggers. Fatigue was actually my adrenals out of balance, and so I had to really get myself into balance to heal and feel like human again and energetic and able to have conversations with my brain working.
Well, and then that led you to want to share that information. So obviously you're trained in pharmacology and sort of medications, if you will. How then do you translate that into working with folks? Is that something you continue to do? Is work with medications, or do you work more with natural supplements? Is it a combination of both?
People, I really love that there are so many different pathways to healing and so many opportunities to heal for people. And the people that I tend to work and they're still not feeling their best. And so I try to figure out what might be out of balance in their bodies and try to figure out the root causes of what's going on. The protocol, which is something I developed over the last few years, this really focuses on lifestyle changes, including some supplements, but a lot of like what you do on your day-to-day life to give you more energy, to shift you out of survival mode and get you into a thriving state. So you can feel amazing in a few weeks, even if you've been like anxious and fatigued and overwhelmed for years.
Yeah, and I love a lot of the tips that you're providing in the protocol, things really basic, like grounding and reconnecting with the earth, like you said, reconnecting into those circadian rhythms. So what are maybe like the top 3 tips that you would advise folks who are just at the start of this journey and maybe want to, what can I implement today? What's something I can try right now to help reconnect me to vibrancy?
So some of the things that can really help, I always talk about the BCs of adrenals. So herbs, the B vitamins and vitamin C can be a really, really big game changer from like a supplemental perspective. Then I always talk about things that get depleted in a chronic stress response might be things like electrolytes. So getting more electrolytes in your system can make you feel so much better. I posted an image of something called Sol or Soleil, which is essentially, it's a drink where you add some sea salt on it and you sip it throughout the day. If you have salt cravings, if you have morning fatigue, if you have low blood pressure, this is going to be something that can give you a little bit more energy throughout the day. A lot of times the salt cravings are a sign that our body actually needs more sodium, and that's going to help us feel a little bit more balanced and energetic. And then the other things that can really be helpful are things like an Epsom salt bath. So I have like a 5-pound Epsom salt somewhere around here, but it is something that can replenish our magnesium stores. We burn through so much magnesium when we are stressed, and that can cause symptoms like anxiety, fatigue, cause pain in our bodies, menstrual cramps, and you get balanced with enough Epsom salts when you take a nice little bath, and you're going to be able to sleep better. You're going to have more refreshing sleep. You're going to wake up more energized. You're not going to be as anxious. You're not going to be, as irritable. And then over time, when you start using it, you're going to feel like your body has less cramping. If you have menstrual cramps, those tend to go away as well if you are properly replenished with magnesium.
Well, magnesium is kind of the queen of the minerals, if you will. She unlocks so much of the efficacy of the other nutrients that we're consuming, and our foods just don't have enough of it. I'm someone who, yes, I take the Epsom salt baths. I have the topical lotions. I sometimes take it internally, especially if I'm feeling like things aren't moving the way I'd like them to. It definitely can help get the system activated. And salt water solely is actually something else I met the very same day that I met kombucha. I'd never heard of it, and I thought it was the weirdest thing in the world that you would drink salt water when our whole lives, right? So this was back in 2002. We'd been told that salt is something to be avoided. It's dangerous. And, I remember living in Chicago and driving past huge piles of industrial salt sitting by the highway, just absorbing all of the pollution and just thinking, how is that a better choice for me? So share a little bit about salt, quality of salt, and how that can really help folks just get that little energy burst.
That's such a good point, because people might hear salt and they might think it's like the iodized table salt. So that type of salt is going to be highly processed. And so we don't necessarily recommend that, but utilizing like a natural sea salt and taking a half a teaspoon of it and putting that in some water, filtered water, that's going to help you replenish your sodium levels naturally. Typically people with an impaired stress response, if they're going to be, they might have issues with not having enough sodium, electrolytes, and this can actually lead to dehydration. And when we talk about electrolytes, I don't mean like Gatorade either. So we do healthy and more clean versions of electrolytes. LMNT is one favorite brand. Noon is another favorite brand. And I have one from Rootology. Pure Encapsulations also makes an electrolyte blend that's a little bit of a cleaner source of electrolytes. And you can add that to water or juice or whatever else you're drinking throughout. And that's going to help you replenish your body.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think that it's important to remind people, because they're like, electrolytes, what do I need that for? Your brain is a battery. Your whole body is a battery. We require an electrical charge. It's also why grounding is so important. We're getting close to the ocean with the negative ions, is because we are electrical beings. And so if we don't have the conductivity that we need vis-a-vis these nutrients, then of course we're not going to feel optimal or able to operate at our highest level. And I love sea salt. I do a little sea salt and lemon in the morning, but it's also something you could add to your kombucha. I really think that minerals in kombucha is going to be a wave of
To know if you have water retention, electrolytes, okay. So typically for people that have water retention, we have to think about sodium. So I would work with perhaps with your doctor on that, because we don't want to give you more of that water retention. Typically people that are more dehydrated would benefit more from electrolytes. So I would definitely, if you're having water retention, talk to your doctor about that.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for listening to this preview here on YouTube. If you'd like to hear the rest of this interview, along with other useful resources such as show notes, links, and special offers, we'd love to extend an invitation for you to join our KombuchaKamp Plus Bubbles with Benefits member rewards program. By becoming a member, you'll earn bubbles with every KombuchaKamp purchase for free products, and that's not all. We also offer birthday booch day rewards, access to members-only sales, high-quality bonus content, including Kombucha Clutch Hangs with me, the Kombucha Mama, and my special guests, a free digital brew journal to track your master brews and experiments, and more. Now here's the best part. It is only $7.99 a month. For $79.99 for the year, you get 2 months free with the annual membership. You can learn more and join our Bubbles with Benefits program at kombuchakamp.com/kombuchakamp+.html. Don't forget, that's camp with a K, because we're cute and clever over here. And don't forget, trust your gut.